Guys, do we have flags somewhere?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our mission statement. Grounded by our history as one of the oldest publicly supported schools in Wisconsin, Mineral Point School District is the heart of a small community that educates and inspires our students for a bright future in a big world. Okay. This is the August regular meeting of the school board in the elementary school. So please let us know if you can't hear us or see us. Thanks to whoever set everything up. Angie, will roll call?
Bergstrom. Here. Bush.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Eisner.
Here.
Johnston.
Here.
Skelding.
Here. Okay, we'll start with recognitions.
So first up is the presidential award winner out of the middle school. Congratulations to Henry Chapman. Brooke, would you like to share anything about the presidential award?
Just a little background on how this person is on their grade point average. So 4 quarters, students who are looked at are 3.5 to a 4.0 GPA. And then based on their forward testing. It is amazing that Henry is receiving this award because he's also just a really incredible kid who takes on extra leadership roles, very positive person throughout the school. He's very active in our source of strength and just is a really great person to represent.
Well, congratulations to Henry. Next up, we have 2 of our pointers who participated in the Small Schools South Division All-Star Game for football, Tremaine Kinnicker and Gibson Spurley. The outcome of the game, Matt, were you aware? I haven't heard the outcome of the game either, but both they go for about a week, practice, and then play. Wonderful opportunity. Again, I think Mineral Point's been represented every year, probably in the last 5 years for sure, maybe even longer. But again, just a phenomenal opportunity for our students to be able to participate and show their skills at another level. So congratulations to Tremaine and Gibson. Badger boys and Badger girls. So Peyton Hines was the Badger Girls State Representative for the Mineral Point School District. And I see one of our Badger Boy State reps is here, Finn Renwick. Why don't you come forward, Finn? We had 4 boys, Nolan Fox, Matthew Gannon, Cole Hendrick, and Finn Renwick. Finn, would you like to share with the board kind of what the experience was like at Badger Boy State?
Yeah, I can do that. It was a week of simulating how the city, county, and state government works. It was all juniors, and it was a week at Eau Claire campus. It was really fun. I got to meet a lot of new people. I got to experience a lot of things. It was a great learning environment, and the food was all right. But
I got to say, I'm jealous, Finn, because when I went, back when I went, it was in Ripon, and there's not a whole lot to do in Ripon, Wisconsin. And I'm sure Eau Claire was a lot better experience than what I'd had. So congratulations for representing the Mineral Point School District so well at Badger Boy State. Thanks. Unfortunately, Matthew could not be here. But Matthew was one of 2 boys in the state of Wisconsin, and 2 out of 100 out of the 50 states to represent Wisconsin in Washington, D.C. at the Boys Nation. He had an opportunity to meet with both Senator Johnson, Senator Baldwin, met with a couple of the representatives from Wisconsin, got to go into Congress, Supreme Court, a couple other places as part of his experience in Washington. And I'm unaware, alumni, I'll ask, I'm unaware of any other student from Interpoint that's had this kind of an honor before. I don't know, Will, Andy, anybody that, you know, so I mean, a very, very, very prestigious honor for Matthew and the Mineral Point School District. I mean, he's kind of been that Senate scholar and, you know, taking this next step here. So, I mean, Mineral Point is certainly on the map in a lot of different places, and just want to congratulate Matthew for this honor. And I share with Dr. Dunn, Matthew is the student rep. He was going to be here tonight. Matthew called some action when the boys were playing in the state tournament for Queen Bee Radio. He's been hired by Queen Bee to do some broadcasting this fall. And unfortunately for us, that organizational meeting is tonight. So Matthew needed to be at that meeting in order to be able to get a few games in volleyball or football this fall. So, you know, just a busy young man, and certainly representing the Mineral Point School District very well. And last, but certainly not least, the Law Enforcement Academy. I see Mr. Leese is here. Would you like to come forward, Mr. Leese, and just kind of tell us a little bit about the experience?
So at the camp I went to, it was 5 weeks of like a little law enforcement academy. Just kind of taught you what you'd be doing if you actually went through and went to an academy, and what the field would be like. You learn a lot. There's a lot of hands-on stuff, so you really get to go through it all. We got to see a bunch of like how the squad cars work, all that. It was just good overall. Learned a lot.
Well, something you're certainly interested in, to invest that kind of time in the summer to do that?
Yep.
Well, congratulations. We're very proud of you, and thank you for representing Mineral Point like this.
Good.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Next we'll go to consent agenda. We've got minutes from the July regular meeting, the July 25th Personnel Committee meeting, August 5th Finance, and August 7th Policy. We've got bills payable, credit card statement of activity. So I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda in its entirety, or we can approve them individually.
Make a motion to approve it in its entirety.
I'll second.
Any discussions or comment?
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bergstrom.
Yes.
Bush,
Yes,
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, next is communications. We'll start with board communications received. Do you want to start?
Yes, I did not have any board communications since our previous meeting.
either.
All is quiet. Hopefully that means all is well.
Oh, it does. If it's not, we definitely hear from somebody.
Just a couple updates from me. I know Mr. Wainwright gave a heads up about maybe a parent concern about like the 4K bus route. So I did get a communication about that, but that's been resolved as of this afternoon. And then Mr. Wainwright and I are still working on an ongoing concern about declaring certain streets in town hazardous for bus routes and picking up kids. So we're reaching mutual understanding and conclusion on that. But I've confirmed that all students are picked up in a safe spot on all of our bus routes, and that any students that are walking home are directed on safe roads that have sidewalks. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Describe it that way?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, nothing else. We'll go to citizen communications. We've been really signed up tonight. Okay. I don't think there's anyone online. Okay. So we'll move forward to items for information and discussion. Start with getting an update on our school board priorities. First is recruitment, retention of staff. Do you have any updates, Mitch, or I guess I could just.
Nothing that we've put effort towards as far as this board priority. The one position you had approved us trying to find someone was a 40% ESL position. We are unsuccessful. We're still not at a tipping point where it's required. So we're going to move forward staffed currently the way we are. I've talked to Angie. We're going to take the posting offline for a little while as we get deeper into the fall, start getting maybe towards a December graduation for universities. We'll look at putting that back out there. We do not have that position filled. And as I said, it's not a required position for us at this time. Something we know we need to try to do to help support our staff. But other than that, we are staffed and ready for the beginning of the school year, 100%.
Some support conditions. Yeah, that was one of my questions. Was I know we're approving a hire tonight. We have a handful of applications for that.
For that position, no. But since that time, we've had some interest come in. We're going to need subs in the kitchen area. We've had somebody express some interest in that. Somebody expressed some interest. Hey, I'd be a sub as an instructional assistant. So, we've picked up some interest that way, which is always appreciated. People willing to help out where they can and when they can. So,
did that recruitment video ever get finalized for publication?
I will follow up on that. Okay. I was looking to get the Interpoint logo kind of weaved into that beginning and end. I don't know if that ever got completed by the end of the school year, but we'll get it out there.
Working on that this summer.
Correct.
Yeah. We're not really in a hiring cycle. Okay. And then, we have the next staff rep meeting scheduled, which we'll go over. We have intent to attend the welcome back staff breakfast. And this will be our second year of student teaching and working on encouraging that as well with as far as teacher mentors.
Gift cards for the student teachers. I'll add gift cards for cooperating teachers. It's kind of a little incentive to open up their classrooms and provide some instruction as well. So we'll look to be pushing that out again this year.
Just promoting staff and student safety and belonging. This will be our second or third year for sources of strength implementation.
To the level that we're in now, this will be our third year. We kind of started with an introduction, really grew it last year, and we'll continue that growth this year and make it a kind of a part of the regular schedule of events throughout the school year.
Am I correct in saying the main kind of the next phase is expansion into elementary school?
Correct.
Is that fair to say?
That's correct. Yes.
There were opportunities or talk of potentially board members being able to attend the meeting. Is that possible? Is it appropriate? I don't.
I've gone, Joni, Andy, you've gone Resources Day. I will let you know if there's another one coming up. I don't know if they do a couple throughout the year, typically with all of the districts involved. I don't know, Angie or Brooke, have you heard anything about that yet?
Annie and I have been in contact with. I'm at least letting them know.
You heard any more on we might get YRBS data?
I haven't gone into it, but I know that in one of the state releases, I don't remember about YRBS is out now, but I haven't gone in and looked. It was just one of the DPI like weekly thing that they said it was out, but
Yeah, I think it's available.
I can back.
Is that middle school too, finally?
I just saw it in one of the quick releases when I've been out the last couple of weeks, so I haven't gone in.
Remind me, when was that survey taken? Is it
All of last year.
almost 12 months old data?
Fall of odd years. So I think it was like the fall of 2023.
Okay.
It'd be about 12 months old.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think it's usually out by like. I know Erica said she said that out. It was.
I know in past years, we've taken it in the fall and been able to use that data in staff meetings was, talking about concerns that might pop up and getting the staff to really be involved in it.
We'll talk later about the cell phone service. School board governance. Hope we got some good work done in the committees this month. The consent agenda seems to be working pretty well. Else, I mean, we're starting, we did a strategic review of our strategic plan and to update it, revise it. It's good.
2-hour meetings.
2-hour meetings. Yeah.
Will's commitment.
Work in
That was
progress.
not it.
Anything to add or
That was Bill's reminder to move on.
Okay, then we'll move on to academic goals for this year from the building principals. Mitch, do you want to take the hot seat first?
Sure.
Okay.
Mr. Ingwell has volunteered.
So academic goals for elementary is a little harder this year than obviously a normal typical year because of the new screener that just came out by the state in July. So based on switching over from FastBridge Star now Ames Web Plus, starting the year with not really having a connection to the previous year of data that will be connected across the board. So again, some of the goals based on that would be obviously I can't throw a number out based on not sure 100% where the norms will fall based on FastBridge Star from there. So I kind of set them out on Friday. So again, really looking at a couple key things is looking at our PLC process, kind of looking at breaking what we're doing currently down. Obviously looking at team-wise, but also then building off of common form assessments of what they're doing in the classroom, using that data to obviously then drive into our win times, which also then drives into our enrichment and extensions based on where kids are at. They've already learned the essential standard, looking further out into other enrichments that everybody's building both. So some of that is just obviously building into that, but also then from there looking at using all of our training that will go out through the whole year of key speaking and reading to really kind of dig deeper into the process of breaking win groups down and then groups down of where students are, have an understanding of where that is, but also then help staff itself. When we talk about providing PD for staff is to dig that PD into their daily use in the classroom.
So tell us a little more about the and what that looks like.
Also, like when we get going into the school year, so the win will be basically then each grade level will then the The grade level teachers will dig into the assessments they use. Kind of obviously then dig into the data of like where students are lacking, where they need more information, more breakdown if it's phonics or reading or writing, whatever it might be. But then take that information and get into win groups where they're going to have instruction from a staff member in the smaller group area to help reinforce for that tier 2.
So WIN stands for what I need. So if a student is way behind, they'll might be in a smaller group and work with a student, with a staff member that can help, you know, give additional instruction in that area. If they're on track, they might just get some lower level support, or they might, if they're ahead, they might be pushed. So it's delivering what the student needs specifically at that time based on what the instructions.
So it's not taking away core instruction, it's adding to it. You know, it's something that we haven't had in our schedule the last couple of years since COVID. So then this will be the first year we actually have it across grade levels. Win time, but also then other staff members are going to help support those times as well too, so you can break down into small groups.
Yes, the daily period or once a week?
It'll be every day but Wednesday. Wednesday's just crazy to
Yeah,
add in everything.
Yeah.
Is it like
30 minutes
like per set time?
Yeah. Yep. Cool. So it's just additional time that they can work on. If it's math, if it's reading, it's writing, we'll break them in groups based on what they see. Great.
That data back on where their students.
That'll be every Wednesday. They can work into the collaborative teams.
Okay.
That's the goal, is to really kind of get back to the true PLC process, what we've done in the past, and really dig into the data, but give them the time to really devote into what we need to do to help support all of our learners to improve. So that's kind of the goal.
So just the benchmark curriculum, are there even like assessments of the work?
It could be weekly. It all depends on where they are on the unit and how many
I see.
assessments are in it. Obviously, each week there should be some type of mini assessments to help kind of see that. It could be even something small as a exit ticket before they're done. And so there might be 2 or 3 questions. That's their assessment for that day or the week.
That's sort of what's, it seems like I remember built in at the middle school and high school now, like in the mornings or something, where there's sort of a time.
Yes,
What do you call that?
yes,
Advisory. So we're kind of getting it at all levels now.
yes. And it really, it was at the high school, middle school. It used to be at the end of the day, probably my second year in the district. And then I know Mr. Renwick brought in win time and it was really ramping up. And then obviously we got hit the same way as everybody in the country got hit. So it kind of fell out of the schedule. And now they're really kind of ramping it back up again to help support our students wherever they can.
You try to use every staff member we can for win times. Obviously helps with keys to begin reading. Give other staff members knowledge and understand how to help break down reading, but understanding background knowledge for them. 1 year of PD, but also trying to dig into from there. But I think as we get through the first month or so, hopefully again, we'll figure out for sure Ames Web Plus, kind of obviously get that rolling. And then from there have data to actually give more of an actual number of here's our goal, here's where we're going, here's where we're at now. Dig off of that.
It's the reading. It's what the legislature had approved is the reading assessment. So while not this year, it will be a fall, winter, spring. So, you know, we used to do STAR at that time. So STAR will be phased out and this Ames Web Plus assessment will be put in. That will track where our students are reading, what levels they're reading. I'm anticipating it will drive some of our summer school numbers too next summer, because part of that is if students aren't at the right percentage, there'll be a required summer school component that the state legislature has put in this Act 20. So that might change a little bit of the summer school next year.
Right now, again, we did hire speech CISA, which is great. There, I think we'll kind of look at the first part of the year and see where we're at for needs. But like, as a whole, all of our spots are filled, which is awesome. Kind of get started from there.
And you supported the PD. They're using CISA 3 for some of the professional development opportunities that it pretty much laid out for the school year for the elementary staff. So that support is appreciated.
Anything above and beyond, but it's built into the your dates. Wow.
Sounds like a good plan.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So we were told we were making some overarching goals for our academics. So I don't have specific numbers for you, but I do have some pretty exciting updates for you. So I know Mitch shared out our documents, we have the language there, but after this first year that I've been here, so we were working on what would serve our students best for in the math curriculum, and we decided to align with the high school with our big ideas. We went with the newest version, the Math and You, which should give us some really good tools to keep track of progress monitoring. Those quick checks, kind of like Thomas checking, that will help us with our advisory groups and what students need more of. So we're not just covering it, but we know that our students have it once we're done with the unit, and what we do with those students who don't yet have it. So there should be a lot of good pieces that we're learning about. We have a PD meeting on Friday with a rep from Big Ideas. And so our middle school teachers are there, and then our high school teachers wanted to join also, just so they can get a refresher on everything. So we're really trying to bring everybody together to support them. We'll be very conscious with our PLCs this year, giving teachers time to really dive in, because that's our really big goal, and not just in math, but also in the reading and the writing. So based on scores that we've seen over the past couple of years, conversations that we've had at the board, and conversations I've had with teachers, we've been using a free online resource, and it had minimal exposure to it, but we were using it for our intervention groups to get a lot of that nonfiction material, common plans. When diving through what could we use to try to meet our student needs more, Common Lit has a paid version that's Common Lit 360, and it's fully vetted. It has green on the ed reports. Our teachers actually, after conversations, brought it to me, and really excited to see them taking that initiative to say, okay, here's where our scores are. You know that we need to change. So I've had 2 Zooms with the rep. Our 7th and 8th grade teachers also had a Zoom with the rep, and we have another professional development scheduled for Monday. So our big goal for that, for reading in ELA, is to really fully understand all the options that we have at our fingertips with this. So this program gives us unit assessments, and I know Rachel, you had brought up at our last meeting, one of the tricky things when you're developing your own curriculum is making sure that what you're giving students access to is grade level material. So all of our assessments are grade level assessments. So unlike STAR, where it will vary the questions based on how you answer them, and it might give a student in 6th grade a 3rd grade level, this is all at grade level. So we will directly see by each standard where all of our students are. Again, that will help us with our intervention times. And then this curriculum also has 3 tests in fall, the winter, and the spring. They told me a really great way to look at those tests are they're actually practice, not timed, so that students are getting exposure and practice with how questions are asked for this. So they're not just everything is aligned. So a tricky thing that we have to figure out, which our PLCs will be huge for, a lot of lessons are taught in reading. And have that. Not all of our teachers teach both reading and writing, or reading and English, so a lot of collaboration and PLC for us. I was really excited to share that piece with you. So, okay. Also, we'll see where Tasha works in with this, because Tasha Terrell is going to bring us another dynamic that will hopefully keep improving our skills. So when we meet with you again in October and I have numbers attached to these very overarching goals, there's going to be multiple layers to these goals so that we can make sure that you're hitting them. But the biggest thing is we really need to have that time to dive in and really figure out what we have access to and how we can best support our teachers so that they are getting everything.
Have we, the Common Lit 360, have we asked CISA 3 if they have any discounted rate as part of remember that library subscription?
Library 21. I have not.
Or something of that
Yeah,
nature?
I have not, but they had listed a pretty extensive list as what was part of that, and I did not see that on their list. That I think the hard part is there's so many, that it's kind of tied to different curriculums. So it's tough for them to say, hey, we're gonna buy this. Is not very many school districts in CISA might be using that, where they try to hit some of the ones that are more broadly represented.
So this one, they gave us a small school discount. Basically, when you're looking at a curriculum, we're like, let's pilot that curriculum and make sure that this is what we want. They don't. They're like, everything's online. If you're going to do it, you can buy a year and then you can make up your mind then. So the number to this was under 5.
Okay.
1,000,
Under 5.
not 5 digits.
I assumed 5,000.
Be intervention material, possibly, but it depends where our students are. So we're going to use that assessment that is given along with STAR, because then we can see who's flagging red on both. And then at that point, we'll be using the Ames Web Plus that Tom was talking about, because then that will give us the specific skills that a student in red is missing, so that when Tasha works with them, they're doing phonemic awareness or phonics skills. So depending on where they are, if we get a chance to maybe pull some that might be more in that yellow range, that's probably where our curriculum is going to serve us really well, because they have it that the skills that they're working on in the classroom, pull those skills at the grade level that those students are in, so they have practice to keep bringing them up, but we're not starting them too high. They'll still be able to access passages. So that's where those multiple assessments come in, so we can really make the best call for every student.
We'd use benchmark assessment, and the hope was to expand it up into the middle school. They'd used it for some of the intervention pieces, but the hope was to lay it over all of the middle school. And we were really hopeful that the state of Wisconsin would have said, this is one of the reading assessments that you can use. And when they didn't choose that one, we put the brakes on that. So now there's lots of conversations between the buildings about, do we use Ames Web Plus? And we will have to purchase seats 4th grade through 8th grade. Still haven't seen 100% detail behind. The state is supposed to cover the required grades pre-K 3, but anything above that or outside of that range, we would purchase. But I know the building principals have talked about wanting to be able to have something that can actually track a student then, instead of, well, you started on Ames Web and then we're using STAR and then we use something else. Now we actually can see full growth. So that those conversations will be coming as we look in the future as to what kind of assessment piece we really want to use. And it makes sense for us to just kind of continue with that Ames Web Plus piece as we move down the road.
last year when we weren't using a curriculum that had those benchmark assessments at grade level, we were having STAR, but there's some questions about, you know, what in it in STAR is. And so we were pulling some kids and using FastBridge, and then we would find out actually they didn't need that. So we were taking up a seat. So hopefully with these multiple measures and without trying to over students also, be able to question with like, we can know if we took this unit assessment and here's what I have. So I appreciate it and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
How's everybody going? So if you, I have it. Okay, here it is. So one of the things, obviously, with the high school, as we keep going down that measures that matters, work hard and stuff. We wanted to make sure we set some goals around that. As we start looking at this year. So I think for this year's senior or graduating class, I kind of threw some numbers out there that are kind of in par, raising the one in that college readiness because we know kids are taking. Hopefully hitting higher than obviously 90% are life ready. 100% life ready would be most ideal there, right? And some of that's that attendance thing. So a big part for us, and I've talked with our staff too, we're going to start working more on these things through our advisory on Friday mornings. We're going to pull in more of our, we're calling it life ready advisory stuff. So you're working on more 21st century skills, academic career planning, SEL. So our sources stuff will get pulled into that. We'll actually start tracking this even better and pulling more data into that. Also had a meeting a couple weeks ago, went really well. We have about half of the year kind of planned out, and then CISA actually is starting to help build some of that. So Erica and myself, we've got to take a couple other people over to CISA because a lot of schools are looking for this exact same. How do we build more of that stuff into it? So we'll join that cohort most likely. We're at CISA, but then starting to track those younger grades as we go. So we're not waiting around to see, well, now all of a sudden at the end of this year, we can tell you, well, the freshmen are 35% life ready. Like they got the attendance and they're involved in this. So we can start looking at it more by grade level. Not necessarily that those need to be on that report card, but so we have it, we can track them from year to year and see if they're improving with their attendance and all this stuff. That's kind of where I kind of centered that around. Like we're going to meet as a higher staff when we get back here. Plan out a little bit more of that, get more viewpoints in there to see what it looks like. But I think it's a really great direction we're headed with that measures that matters report. That's kind of our big focus here is how do we incorporate all that in. And then when we get into the fall, I can kind of show you what that Friday schedule looks like and stuff. Got critical thinking activities, team building activities. Our sources are in there. Some different things that way, study skills, things like that. So kind of a way for us to incorporate that into it, take the next step, what our advisory looks like on the high school. Advisory. So advisory is your typical advisory week in the past. On Monday, you do grade checks, you're checking in with kids. On Tuesday through Friday, you have a chance to go get extra help. So there were study sessions, there were some enrichment things from time to time. If you were failing a class, you actually went to work with that teacher. So it was a way to get extra help in spaces Where now this kind of ties in the academic career planning stuff right into it, builds it right into it. One of the big struggles is if I'm teaching in science and you're teaching in math, how do I build academic career planning into math? Try to work that all in, and then some kids are getting it 4 times. Some kids might be getting it once, or some kids might only get it 1 time because they're with apprenticeship and they're not in that science class and they didn't do it in this class. Kind of a way for us to kind of build it into advisory. Advisory has changed. Yes, Mr. Trainer, it's probably changed every year since he's been there. I know we've changed it a lot. Moving it to the morning's been really good. Club meetings are during that time on Wednesdays. Sources meets, NHS meets. And those as kids. NHS. Chess club meets during lunch. No, chess meets during lunch. So yeah, those are just some things that we're looking at. We want to keep building, obviously, what that looks like for kids, and they'll work on their resumes during that time. They'll still look at class scheduling through there, career pathways, a lot of career. November is career month, so they'll do some different things on that. That I know when I shared the Measures That Matters report, got that survey in there. That'll be one of the first things we do this year here to kind of get some data for that. So really excited where that's going. Yeah.
It would be good to understand too, like, what do you measure along the way with each grade to make that result happen?
Great question.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, I know. That's why when we had that meeting a couple of weeks ago, we had some great ideas thrown around, good things, and it's like now we need everybody to. Because where is this not working? If you know that, if you're looking at it like, great, let's go that. But a good chance to try some things and get everybody there to. Here's what this kind of looks like.
Who the students introduced to Zella start using that?
Freshman
year? Great.
It's free for all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll use Zello as the platform so we have to do academic career planning. The modules on Zello they're not tailored for every kid. They're very tailored to your kid that's just going to go to the 4-year college. So the state says we have to do something for that. This is how we're going to use it. We're still going to use it to register for classes, build resumes. There's one other thing on it. There's some about me stuff on it, career interest stuff on it that we'll still use. But then we're going to start building those other things, how we feel best fits our needs. Zell is obviously a state.
This is the case that, let's say, incoming freshmen. So are there conversations happening around Zello or advisory saying, hey, just, I mean, this is what our portrait of a corner looks like, this is what it means for you guys to be ready for a 4-year college.
I think that Erica is starting to have those.
And if this is something, if you're interested in going to a 4-year college, this is how Zello can help. And these are things that you want to make sure you check off when you're planning your schedule and signing up for extracurriculars and
very good
studying
job.
for ACT.
Yeah, I think Erica does a very good job of. She meets with almost every individual.
Right.
The ones that she can't, typically throw it down in my office, so I can do them. So at least touch base with all of them. I believe it's a lot of be interested. And now you're going to see it. We're going to see more growth in that area because we're surveying them on a consistent basis. And what do we need to bring into the career fair? One of the things that we've had mentioned the last couple of years is vet tech. I've got it set up already. Well, unfortunately, last year the person couldn't change their schedule within a week. So this year they've already got it on their calendar for that. So I think that we're just going to be able to open. Yeah, Erica does a great job talking with those kids individually.
Sparks, we're hoping your kids will reach by the time they graduate. And we're tracking this on every student, and we're using advisory and Ms. Brunson to, and yourself to help guide those kids in that direction. I think your parents on, number one, that would excite parents to be like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then number two, you can start conversations with freshmen. Hey, maybe we should do a little think about it. Right. That's all. I know I didn't get that when I was a freshman.
Right. No, I think that's a great point. I'm sure we will.
No, it's good.
I think they had the bulldozer, they had the, they could use the backhoe.
Almost like a field day, so to
Field day
speak.
type of thing for that type of, because there was a bunch of kids interested in it. They came up and it's like, say, take it. I know he was like, well, we have this day, and I said, yep, you're gonna take those kids and we're gonna do all this. So I think it was a sources day, he's like, we're gonna miss that, and I go, okay, well, it's what those kids do. They have blast, and they're learning things, and a lot of those kids are gonna go into something like that, which is great.
Next is district goals. I think that was something that you're going to discuss at our level with any input from yourself.
I think some of the most obvious ones will be around action item number 2, having a successful referendum campaign, getting their proper information out and hopefully seeing a successful vote in November is certainly something that we'll have as a district goal. Strategic plan. And then you guys got me signed up for a lot of extra meetings with the ad hoc committee and so on and so forth. But, making sure all these things run smoothly and we get information out that's usable, something, coming out of the ad hoc, what can we provide for our families? I've seen some things recently too, as we saw the US Senate passes a couple of bills. And I mean, it's not just a Mineral Point problem. I get Monday through Friday, I get educational news articles kind of sent to me in an email from my membership in WASDA, and it's cell phone policy here, social media policy there. I mean, so there's a lot of districts around the state that are trying to address the same concerns that we've been talking about. So hopefully we can get some really good information and share it out coming out of the ad hoc.
We can know. It'll be good to have your perspective. What do you think? That you know what?
Sure.
It's wondering if you made it kind of clear to everyone that we're going to continue this in the next year rather than. I mean, that they're still up on our website. Understanding.
Like a way that we could update, like this is what we've done so far and here's what we'd like to do next. Absolutely.
That together.
Hey, Karen, thank you.
There's no peer pressure there whatsoever. Yes, I apologize. I was gonna run this off then between running back down here to make sure this was set up through CM Consultants and then back up to the elementary school or out to the middle school, high school to grab my stuff. It's one of the things I forgot to print off for tonight. The district technology budget is coming in at $350,000 this year. That's down about $30,000 from last year. And so far, we've already saved close to $50,000 based on some of the purchases that we've been able to make at reduced costs. CM Consultant does a great job finding us the best deals. Probably the thing that I will be most excited about is because of their work, we have something called E-rate. So our internet services, we get a discounted rate for internet through what's called E-rate. Their services can be billed through E-rate. So while we won't get it in this fiscal year, we'll get a rebate check at 60%. So we should see about a $70,000 check at the start of the next school year as our E-rate rebate on their services. This is the first time I was ever made aware that this was even possible for us to use our third-party computer services run through E-rate. The other thing that we've been working on is they're potentially opening up the wireless access points. Well, sorry, not wireless access points, the wireless hotspots that we have provided in the past. We still maintain several of those in case somebody's going on a trip. Usually when the FFA kids go to Indianapolis, usually 2 of them are checked out because those guys want to stay on top. They're looking at changing the laws that would allow us to run that through E-rate. Not as much of a savings, but still, our reimbursement rate is 60%. So for the number of wireless hotspots that we provide, we can get 60% reimbursement on that. So it'd be a little bit more cost savings to the district. We tend to try to pre-purchase whenever possible. We tend to try to find discounts if we do like a 3-year contract for the firewall. If we can do 3 years and it gives us a reduction, we'll do that. We'll enter into some of those long-term agreements. I have been very happy with the level of service and attention that CM Consultants has given us since we've switched over from Dependable to CM. I think our value has really increased. And while we might be paying more per month, we're saving more on a year-to-year basis. So there are things like Adobe Suite that we need to purchase. We purchased smart boards. We have Chromebook purchases that we've been making and trying to rotate in. They have put together a schedule of when we will update Chromebooks. We're currently trying to get as long a life out of them as we can. Typically 4 years, but we're trying to get 5 and maybe even 6, depending on what the need is at 6 years. If you remember a couple years ago, I came with a proposal that we were able to run through one of the federal government's connectivity grants because some of our Chromebooks were outdated. The testing software that we use them for, like for STAR testing, the state forward exam, it wouldn't run that software anymore. So we needed to get newer version of Chromebooks. So the IT people really help us kind of keep track of some of those kind of components as well. They operate between the two buildings, so they're working with iPads in classrooms and Chromebooks on carts down here and one-to-one at the middle school, high school. So again, I think we've already to date saved $50,000 off of that $350,000 technology budget. So it's really down to 300,000, which is a reduction from the previous year.
So when we looked at budget numbers earlier on, were you anticipating a $350,000 budget in that or a $380,000?
I was anticipating a 350. I work with CM in the, every year we work in the spring of the year as we're putting the budget together. So that number, that 350 number was in the budget proposal
So
that
we already recognized the 30,000, but we potentially will see an additional 50 in savings.
correct.
Okay, and then that $70,000 rebate is great, but we don't get that until 25, 26.
Right. That's when we'll get that.
Thank you.
We'll see that rebate in the next fiscal year. They do. We have found that our purchase price was still a little bit below what CISA was, but it's something that we do look at. That's one of those things that they will send out a survey. How many seats do you need? Here's what our cost is per seat. And CM has been able to find us a price that comes in a little bit less than that. But yes, we're trying to use every avenue we can to stretch our dollars. So in your board books, you have June budget from 2023. I have that right. Well, I'm sorry, I must have attached the wrong files. The July, we would have expended about 5% of the budget in July of 23. In July of 24, we have expended about 7% of the budget. So again, we're pretty comparable on where we are. Danielle was able to get all the budget numbers in Skyward, so she opened up based on your approval of the preliminary budget. She was able to open up Skyward for people to start putting in purchase orders. So some of those things started coming in so that staff would have those items at the start of the school year. And if you ask Angie and look in the teacher workroom where the UPS deliveries come there, it was almost floor to ceiling today until we were able to start moving things out to the different rooms in the different buildings. So we're comparable in far as finances are concerned.
Okay, next is the first reading of some updates to our board policies. Policy here is Kristen. Right? Do you want to just? I think we all read through the committee minutes, but just want to summarize.
There weren't many changes that we had to make. I believe that on the evaluation of administrative staff, I don't think there was anything that we updated, was there?
We specified that that's done on a yearly basis, and we're using the approved educator effectiveness model for that evaluation. That was the only adjustment that came in the very first paragraph.
And then the use of seclusion and physical restraint also includes a rule at the end, and this came with a recommendation from client. So we stuck with her expertise on this, and we are doing the policy as well as the rule in addition to.
And that met with our current practice. What the school district is already doing, it meets the state standards and the reporting. If you remember, next month, Angie, So we'll be coming next month with the district seclusion restraint report for your approval that we have to submit to the DPI in October.
And then for the community programs and services, there was language in here about that this is for students in the district, but we wanted to add students and community since the community programs and services in the title. We wanted to add community in there as well. Yeah.
Correct. And the district bookkeeper shall be responsible for ensuring the district implements procedures and collecting the fees.
For policy 672, changes on paragraph 3, that purchases of goods and services shall be referred to the board for consideration and approval when the cost exceeds $50,000. And that was a change from 10,000. I don't think there was anything about parent involvement that we changed at all.
No. One words stricken, technical was taken out of item number 4. So instead of technical assistance, it just would, the sentence would start with assistance will be offered to help district staff and parent involvement activities. Correct, next month.
We'll go into that part of the agenda. First is finalizing the scope of the ad hoc committee. Justin, I think you talked about that. What we decided on the scope. Right, I mentioned that almost the entire committee has been finalized.
If there are any concerns with any of the members, you could certainly discuss that, but we're just waiting on one parent for the elementary.
You have parents identified and just waiting for their confirmation, or are you still working on identifying a parent?
You hear that question, Mr. Ingwell? Do you have a parent identified and you're just waiting to hear back from the parent? Okay. Yep.
Then we want to have for parents, staff, administrators, all stakeholders to come together and talk through going through what works, what hasn't, to update policies, really leverage that committee to those recommendations. We'll talk.
It's just for sake of clarity. Let's see, number 1, it says what would be the mission for the committee, and number 1 would be bring community staff, board administration together to discuss the growing concern of cell phone use and social media and its impact on the academics and social emotional state of our kids. Number 2, understand how cell phones and social media in school is impacting kids academically, socially, and emotionally. Next would be look at best practices and how other districts have managed cell phone and social media use to minimize student harm and also maximize learning. Next is educate parents on cell phone use and social media use. And then the last was review current policies to make sure they align with current thinking, best practices, et cetera. So
if you're going to establish this as the ad hoc committee kind of direction, what would you like to see as a result of their meetings? You want them to be able to come back to the school board and their final product should be a review of policies and any recommendations and, creating this, maybe this educational, I don't know, handout pamphlet, something that will help educate families around what the impact of social media use, cell phone use is having on our students. Right. That's kind of what your ultimate goal is. So what is that duty? Is that what you're looking for? And that's what you would vote on tonight, that I move that the ad hoc committee be created and do X, Y, Z. Bring back a report, in 4 months, whatever, 3 months, let's meet once, let's have a ad hoc committee report out. If we get this created, say by the first part of September, and we get a report out in October or November, kind of set that. What are the duties of this ad hoc committee moving forward? This is what you're hoping for, and maybe just spell some of those things out.
We kind of say that we charge them with investigating 4 items that you just listed. Returning to the board with any policy recommendations, changes, an educational piece that the district can provide to parents about the impact of cell phone use and social.
Like that.
Now you're going to have to list those 4 things.
They're in the notes of the personnel committee meeting in the board book. Yeah, so we can pull it. Yep. Yep.
Andy, would you be willing to state that as a motion?
Yeah, I move what I just said. I move that we charge the ad hoc committee with investigating 4 items addressed in committee notes and returning to the board with any recommendations for policy changes or new policy and providing the board with a potential educational piece for parents about the effects of cell phone use and social.
Like it by what? December? Yeah, fair. Everybody waving.
4 month deadline is.
That's
probably
probably,
reasonable.
yes.
Yeah.
By
They'll give you through
the
holiday
December
break.
board meeting
They'll give you through holiday break. Oh,
or
By December board
by
meeting?
January board meeting?
why don't we do that?
Sounds great.
Our December board meeting is always super rushed because we have to get to the
Yeah,
Christmas
right.
concert. So January is better.
That sounds good. Make sure we
With
recommend
the-
a longer timeline.
No, that's fine.
We also need to make a motion.
Yeah, you have to approve the membership as presented. With the-
And approve the membership as presented by the.
Second.
Like a 4-minute.
The clarity, like, what are you asking?
Right. And we could get together and just talk, but you're actually wanting something, some kind of a recommendation coming. Yep. Yep.
Sure. Correct. That'll be
Well,
decided at the first meeting.
yes. The last time there was an ad hoc committee meeting, it was the committee members selected the chair or co-chair and we would proceed that same. Yes. The committee that shall not be named ever again.
That's the other discussion, questions?
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Skelby,
Yes.
Bergstrom.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, next is approving the for the poll referendum or simply the number?
It would be the number and whether or not you wish it to be a recurring or non-recurring referendum.
Committee Chair, do you want to summarize what the recommendation of the board is?
Yeah, so we had a fantastic meeting, great participation, great attendance. Jordan from Baird was with us and we reviewed, we were able to take last year's fiscal numbers and apply them to next year's budget and get a true picture. So we're looking at about a $570,000 deficit the current year, which we will use a fund balance for. We have put away the last couple of years. I'm expecting to use that, and then we are looking at a much larger deficit moving forward. Cumulative total of $1.3 million over the next 4 years based on this year's budget and a set of fiscal assumptions. So after discussion on how we wanted to present that, how much we wanted to go after, we had some options with whether we wanted to stair step it. We just discussed that this board was committed to only actually levying the amount needed each year based on the budget to the total amount, but instead of coming back year after year and asking for more, give us what we hope will be more than 4 years based on history over the last 7 or 8 years of us performing a surplus and hopefully stretching that to 5 or 6 years. But based on the budget presented, that 4-year number was 1.3 million. So we decided that our recommendation would be to go to the taxpayers with a recurring referendum not to exceed 1.3 million, but be very clear that we will only levy the amount needed. So it would not come based on current budget numbers, 1.3 million until year 4, and it could be beyond.
Everybody that the 1.3 million would be used to run the operation.
It's for instructional programming. It's for staffing. It's for, some maintenance things that might fall under an operating referendum, on a year-to-year, day-to-day basis, those kinds of things. So yes, nothing else that might come up, some other special project. Hey, we're going to build a new shed somewhere. That this money is not doing any of those kinds of things, but it's going to maintain our ability to operate the school district. Hopefully this number gets us easily through that 28-29 fiscal year.
Yeah, we discussed quite a bit that this district has supported, this community, this district as a whole, has supported this district in the past, but at the same time, recognizes the return on their investment, continues to demand, high quality education for the community. And we just understand that to continue to provide that based on the 16.8% inflation the last 3 years, that we have to join everybody else and the taxpayers, because the major funding of education that the lawmakers talked about last year went to the taxpayers. It went to state aid and reduced property tax. It did not go to expanding the school district's budget.
You did talk about some different numbers as well. What is the right amount? And if it was less than that 1.3, that would just kind of reduce the number of years before we felt we would need to come back and ask for another operating referendum. You talked about potentially, well, what if we just bumped it up a little bit more and went to like a 1.5? Would that get us through the 8-9 fiscal year, maybe even a 29-30 fiscal year? And it was, we feel we've been very, I would like to say, fiscally responsible. In 2018, we had an operating referendum for $350,000 that we were hoping would get us 3 years. We're now in year 7. Getting through this fiscal year will be year 7. We've done everything we can to be fiscally responsible, use grant monies, use whatever we can to maintain the same level of academic services that we have, and just felt, maybe 1.3 will get us there. Maybe it'd be a little bit short. Maybe it would. Some of that money would get us into that 29-30 fiscal year. And like Member Bush said, we would only use what we need to maintain that balanced budget based on revenues and expenses coming in that year. So it wouldn't be all 1.3 at one time. Like, we've also been proactive and put money into our capital projects savings account. Correct. That is almost $1 million. So we have money fund capital-based projects like the boiler going out or anything like that. Right. Some of those really big things, that emergency that may happen isn't going to make us instantly go to a referendum. We have the ability to take care of some of those things now.
Motion to approve this recommendation. 1.3 million. Could you talk briefly, or Andy, if you want to comment on just how this is going to affect the bill rate in terms of how the community is taxed, and whether how that might have affected your decision to anticipate whether the community could handle this kind of a.
Yes, we looked at it, and obviously you have to estimate property values moving forward. So we used probably an underestimated 2% increase in property valuation year over year. The last 2 years have been double digits. Everybody knows what property values are like in their own right now. So 2% seems a bit low, especially at least for one more year. But that's what we used to be consistent. And moving forward, kind of using that number is that first year, which would be the main impact year, would be about 60 cents or $60 per 100,000. So we really thought, based on what we were getting, the education we'd be able to continue to provide for the 1.3 million, 60 cents seemed like a reasonable impact to the mill rate moving forward. And then the successive years, based on the additional dollars we would have to borrow, was around 30 cents per year. But again, the farther we get out, the less precise we can expect those numbers to be without, and that's with a 2% valuation increase each year. But anything higher than 2% would drop that increase even further. So we felt like that was a reasonable, that the mill rate impact was very reasonable for continuing to provide a high level of education and successful extra and co-curriculars that the district has right now. So.
And I hate to say flat, but relatively flat, you know, as we looked out the impact of an additional levy on that referendum, it kind of maintained the mill rate. There wouldn't be a great big spike or a drop, which would, you know, shock somebody as a taxpayer either. So I mean, it would stay fairly close year to year. You know, early in my tenure, it was double digits, you know, and we're looking at probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $8, $8.25, $8.26, potentially this current school year or this current fiscal year. And that with this referendum, if we step it in based on our needs, would be pretty close to that range moving forward over the next few years, trying to minimize the impact of tax.
So based on the estimates that we had and the projections, and to Andy's point, that confidence goes down as you project further out, but the first year, it would be about a 7.9% increase in the mill rate, or increase in the property tax for the school district's portion of the property tax. And then each of the 4 remaining years that we estimated, again, an estimate, but it would be about a 3.7% increase every year. So it's not nothing, but if we are able to step into it, it does soften that blow a little bit.
That's based on estimates of how much you would need to levy just to cover
Right.
the deficit, right? Not the
Correct.
not
Not correct.
Yeah.
So that first year we have the largest amount because we're going to finish the school year with potentially a significant deficit and using fund balance. So in order to get us back to just level, that first year will be the biggest bump, and then the steps would be much smaller after that.
The other thing we don't control is what the value of your property is deemed to be for this purpose. You know, this year my house might be worth assessed value of $100,000 and the mill rate is being what it is. I know what my taxes are. Next year they come in and tell me, oh, your assessed value is now this, and the mill rate may drop a little bit, but my property taxes may go up because the value of your home has been deemed to have gone up. You know, as Jordan kind of pointed out, a double-digit increase in valuations, but 90% of that was based on purely inflation. We haven't added new buildings. We haven't increased the size of the community with houses and other businesses and things. It's purely based on an inflation impact on property values.
Yeah, I remember when there was a point in time where there was 2 sort of open referendum questions. So citizens of the town had approved a referendum to remodel the elementary school. And then the question came up to, oh, since that was approved, why don't we do a referendum to build a whole new elementary school? And part of the pushback from some individuals in town was that you would have to trust the school board that they wouldn't use the money from both approved referendums. So some level, we're asking the citizenry to trust us that we are not going to levy full amount every year. You know, that we'll be very careful with that. And I think when it comes to like the motion we're going to make, which is probably the most important thing we'll do in terms of how it's going to be framed for the ballot, that maybe is the most confusing part. So I'm trying to think about like how an everyday person will see this and like how we frame it and how do we sort of, I mean, I trust our board
I think that's,
individually and collectively, but
that's two things. I think the piece maybe you're getting at is probably the next meeting. Or just approving it. Whether it's recurring in the amount. Quarles and Brady will come back, which, and I think a lot of that will be us, Mitch, and other community members explaining to the community. Don't know that we can put in there, will not exceed current budgeted deficits.
oh, yeah, legal.
Yeah, so we would definitely be explaining to the community that's put all of us on the same board year over year, that at this point, we feel like we've earned your trust. We're not going to just take your money for no reason.
I reached out to Quarles and Brady after the finance committee meeting, knowing that it's going to be a quick turnaround, to just at least say, I'll be reaching out again tomorrow morning with a yes vote tonight. And so the question that they sent back to me, which could potentially be on the ballot, shall the Mineral Point Unified School District, Iowa and Lafayette Counties, Wisconsin, be authorized to exceed the revenue limit specified in section 121.9 of Wisconsin statutes by $1,300,000 beginning with the 25-26 school year for recurring purposes consisting of ongoing operational expenses. So that could be as simple as the referendum language is. Will you give us authority to levy up to 1.3 million? Conversations that came out of finances, we're only going to levy what we deem is needed. So we don't need 1.3 next year. The 1.3 is trying to look out and be responsible fiscally 4 more years down the road. So that's where we came to that dollar amount. That's why I kind of settled on that. And the school district, the school board can determine what needs to be levied each year, but it can never exceed that 1.3 million based on a successful referendum, if that were the question.
That's fine. I've seen all the, like, is it possible to simplify the language in the referendum, or there is a legal? It's all legal jargon. Has to see.
Yes. So it will be on all of us to help explain. If you are in support of this, you're giving the school district the authority to go up to $1.3 million above our current revenue limit. This will be a recurring. So yeah, we're not going for 1.3 this year. We're not going for 1.3 the year after, 1.3 the year. It's the dollar amount that we can exceed the revenue limit can only get up to 1,300,000. Next year. That'll be up to us to help explain that, if that's not the case. I know school district of the South wants to exceed the revenue limit by 1.9 million per year for 5 years, beginning in the 26-27 school year, but ending in the 30-31 school year. So they're, in total, it'll be $9.5 million that they'll end up getting. Ours in total cannot be more than the 1,300,000.
I don't understand that the same per year.
They're asking for 1.9 million each year in a non-recurring fashion. So they're asking for it. So they're going to come to the taxpayer for 1.9 million in 26-27.
Be paid equally over 5 years.
New for that year. Then they're going to come back again the next year for 1.9 million. So they're asking for that each year for 5 years, not over 5 years.
we're not asking for over 5 years. We're asking for a recurring amount every year. And we're just saying, if we don't need it, we won't spend it.
We're asking for that tax to be added to our base. That's the recurring part. So we're not asking for 1.3 every year. We're asking for 1.3 to be added to our base at some point in time. The finance committee said we would probably step that in based on what we need. So next year, the talk was we would need 700,000. So now there's only 600,000 left. That wouldn't be taxed yet. They'd only be taxed on the 700,000 that we were asking for the 25-26 school year. That's what would be levied. The next year we might need 200,000.
On top of the 700.
We're not asking for that again. It's already there. That 700 is now added to our base revenue.
Collecting it from the community every
Right.
year going forward.
Correct. So the next year we might only ask for an additional 200,000. So that leaves 400,000 out of that 1.3. So that's where Joni was talking about how the impact to the mill rate will be smaller after that first year, because that first year we're asking to use a bigger portion of the 1.3.
You say our base, you're referring to our revenue limit, our authority.
Correct.
That would be extended indefinitely versus a non-recurring, which is fixed and has limits to it.
Yes. If our base was 12 million and we did this on a non-recurring basis next year, and this was successful, the next year our base is now 13.3 million. The next year our base goes back to 12 million because it's non-recurring, it falls off. In a recurring referendum, it's added to the base and stays in the base forever moving forward. So the 350,000 we'd asked for back in 2018 is still in that revenue limit authority that we get. It's the only way that the school district can get additional monies. The state has not given districts permission to exceed the revenue cap other than going to referendum.
It's smart to look out, to forecast what we need or what we think we'll need in 5 years. And plan for that. To ask for it now. I think it's smart to ask for the recurring number. I think we have the communication of all of this is key. So as a group, we need to simplify the message and come up with the plan of how we'll talk to stakeholders in the community about this is the plan, what it means, and how we'll do it, and make sure we're all on the same page.
I mentioned that he and Joel are already working on it. A one pager, like.
We'll have a frequently asked questions tab. So anybody that has a question can go to our website, open that up and click, what does this mean? Place to get information. I think the last time we even put on a tax impact calculator based on what was going on. So
Google 2019. And the link hidden at this point. Web page with all the copies of the stuff. So it's probably not a bad place for us to start looking, just understanding the numbers different. There's no capital project, but in terms of the operations, language is probably simpler. Other than we're explaining to the community that we are stepping it, taking it all.
Yes.
Yes. Gelding,
Yes.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
It's a tough position to be in. And, you know, every district around us is in the same boat. And I don't know if misery loves company. It's like, well, I don't want my taxes to go up and I understand that, but we're not alone. This is not a problem that's just a Mineral Point problem or just a Dodgeville problem or somebody else. This is a statewide problem and referendum questions are out there in record numbers year after year after year because the lack of funding that is available for public schools to help support, you know, when inflation's hitting everybody, it's hitting the home, it's also hitting the school. And I know it's a difficult ask. I understand that. And it's going to be a very tough decision for people to make in November.
Okay, next is board business. Just a reminder, we are meeting with the staff reps on August 26th. So Monday, 6 o'clock. Should be on the Google calendar. And then the welcome back staff breakfast is the following morning.
Right.
We can make a point to put a rough agenda together. Send it out to the staff reps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then next, just follow up on our meeting we had to talk about the strategic plan for the district. I can't tell who filled out the survey or not.
I saw your email to Jamie and he did not respond to me saying everybody's done it, nobody's done it. I don't know. I don't know if he'll get back to me tomorrow or get back to us tomorrow, but
Yeah, that's fine. So just a reminder, I sent out an email by 31st, summarizing the recap of the meeting, and then Dr. Nutter wanted us to fill out a survey. So I think once he has all of that, we'll plan a follow-up meeting. So if you can't find the email, just let me know. I can send it. That was it for board business.
Five, not 20. Just reply to me, don't reply all.
Sorry,
Meeting.
and the room block is opening up tomorrow.
Morning.
So
Just there.
yeah.
probably this year they'll ask if we want the same rooms for July or January of 26. I don't, it's good. So if you think you can make the January WASB convention, and that is
January 22nd to the 24th.
Sounds right.
yes, yep, that's correct. So look at your calendars, and if you can go, reach out.
There are some.
Yeah,
And responding to your email is not a final commitment necessarily, right?
No.
Because you're not signing us up for the convention, you're just reserving hotel rooms, which
Right.
can be canceled.
yeah. So you would check in Tuesday night, and the convention starts Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it'd be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday would be your stay.
Great. Next is employee services. District's recommending hire Ross Coogan as elementary instructional assistant. So I'll take a motion to this hire, or we can move to go in a closed session to discuss any confidential questions or concerns and vote on it out coming out of closed session. So, she mentioned that there weren't a lot of things. She just wanted to talk briefly about the review process.
Just to get our 29 dedicated to. So, this person works Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at the time on the fourth. Section, 4K section alone, and then in the afternoon, it usually hops into the other, one of the other.
Process was identical to every other position we've had available. So yes, we follow the same procedures, process, reference checks. We do have work experience with Ross. We have seen him in action, and he meets our expectations and looks to continue to improve what he can provide for us and for our students. So I certainly support the recommendation as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Galvin?
Yes.
Yes.
Bush?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes. Okay, so we'll have no closed sessions.
Correct.
Meeting is September
9th.
Next regular.
Next regular meeting. We will need a special meeting to approve the resolution language. This is not the formal resolution language. You'll need to have a special meeting prior to the end of August so that we meet all the guidelines and we can get the information out to all of the clerks for voting and all of the townships, municipalities, county. The 26th is the month.
No, it's the last day, 70.
It's either the 27th or 28th, somewhere in there, maybe even August 30th. So 26 would work. I had asked if it would be possible, depending on your vote tonight, would it be possible to have something the week of the 19th? Allison Buchanan is kind of the rep that does a lot of this work. She did our last referendum language for us. She thought she could probably get it done by the end of that week. So the 26th should work if that works in everybody's calendar.
at 5:30, you think?
Before the breakfast.
Oh, I'm sorry, before the, no, you're thinking before the staff prep meeting.
The building staff rep is on the 26th. The staff breakfast is the 27th. So if you wanted to meet, I don't think it would take a half hour. I think 15 minutes tops to come in and approve the resolution language. And then you would just be able to go right into the staff building rep meeting on the 26th. So if you met 5:45,
around the 26th. So. You all.
So if we only have a day, are there technical? No closed, if the machine broke or whatever, to get the print approved or something. How to work it.
Email, no.
All right.
Well,
Do you want to do the honors?
to adjourn before 8 o'clock.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?